Hello everyone, we have a game with the black pieces against JP Vivanco, rated 1862. He opens up with e4, d4, and now we get to try our Philidor system. And I'm attacking the pawn, he should defend the pawn. Okay, we have another chessable checker. What does the chessable course say? JP Vivanco. Yes, it says bring out your knight. Good job. What does it say after e5? Queen trade line. Ooh, you bought the wrong chessable course, my friend. Okay, he develops the bishop and attacks the knight. You know what we do. Bishop e6 covering all of the light squares in the center. He castles with check. Deadly. We go. Knight bd7, blocking the check and developing a piece. Now, what are you going to do? A lot of times they play bishop b5 here, and it's wrong. So instead, this guy develops his knight and attacks the pawn because the knight's not actually defending it because it's pinned. So we're going to go king c8. Now the pawn is defended because it's unpinned. You do have to spend a move going king c8, and then you're going to go king c7, but that's fine. He takes our knight unprovoked with his bishop. We're going to purposefully double our pawns to protect our center. And now we have a dark square bishop, and he doesn't, so that's awesome. So you see he's 1862, but he just made a bad decision all on his own. He thinks it's good. He thinks, oh, if I take this, he can't take with the knight because he loses the pawn. So it forces him to double the pawns, but we're okay with that. So he goes king b1 because he has no idea what to do. And that's facts. So we're going to go c6 to prevent his knight from jumping into the center and to give our king a nice home on c7. It's the same setup you've seen me do many times. He goes a3. Maybe he's pushing, or maybe it's prophylaxis, I don't know. King c7. Now our king is safe. We're ready to develop our bishop. He develops his bishop very passively, non-threatening. We go bishop b4. We develop our last minor piece. We connect our rooks. We threaten to ruin his pawn structure. So this is all good stuff. He ignores us and goes g4. That's weird. I mean, is he just going to go g5? I guess that's his idea, g5. We could delay it one turn by going a6, but let's not. Let's take his knight and ruin his structure. Very bad structure. And now let's improve a piece with a threat while he does his little pawn storm on the other side of the board. And now our pieces look nice. And how do you defend this? Bishop here. But then after knight here, I'm now threatening this pawn. You can't defend it with your king or any other piece on the board. So that's interesting. And then it double hits this. So a lot of problems for white here. All because he played natural moves, and we know what happens in the queen trade line when you play natural moves. You lose. You can't play natural moves. You have to play the best moves. Now he's stumped. Okay, how else can he defend the pawn? Knight back to d2, and he does that. But now he doesn't even have that idea of his own. Plus he's blocking his own rook, which looks terrible. I can even maybe just sack the exchange, but aside from sacking the exchange, if I go here and hit the pawn, He still can't defend it. He can push it, but then he still loses the exchange. So this just looks like a really good move because his bishop is also in the line of fire. And like I keep mentioning, most importantly, there is no king b2 defending the pawn. And so even though knight a4 looks like the knight's on the rim, look at the problems it's causing. So now I get to win a pawn. If I take this bishop, I mean, that would be great. There's a pawn hanging though. If you take the bishop, you harmonize his position. He has easy ideas, but you're still better. Okay, my knight's under attack. If I do take this pawn, I'm going to take the bishop. Because without that bishop, there's no coordination squares. His knight's restricted. I can use my pawns to restrict it further. It's weird for him. Also, he gave me this hook, and I can develop this rook with threats. He can't push past because we take it, and if he takes it, we get free development with pressure. If he ignores us, well, then we take and open up our rook. He'll take this way, getting a pass pawn on the H file. I guess I'll just take it because his rook's hanging. I was just trying to see if there was anything else, but I guess if you can go bishop takes g4. So like if he goes here and you take and he takes, you take. If he can't take because of rook. Okay, so he takes first, but this now comes with a threat, and our rook is super strong and harmonizes our position with easier development and threats. And okay, so he defends it, but how do you defend it a third time? And yeah, I don't see what white does. He doesn't have any moves. His knight can't even go here. This doesn't do anything. I mean, this is his only route, but after he gets here, maybe we just stop it. So he cries. Okay, so he just counterattacks something else because, you know, what else is there to do? But so here he has to at least take once, and after here, if he takes here, he's not threatening anything. And then alternatively, we can just maintain tension and shuffle our king here and then take the pawn. But let's see. Here, 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 here. We don't have to move our bishop or our pawn. What do we do with our rook? Yeah, I don't know if I go here, what does he do? Let's just defend the pawn with the rook, and then we can take this anytime, like next turn. We don't even have to give him the pawn, I guess. And luckily, or thankfully, he has about the same time as us, so we're not super low on time. And he's kind of stuck for moves. I feel like our bishop is awesome and overwhelming, and that's why we put it here when we do right in the beginning of the game. Yeah, he can't really move his rooks. Okay, so he moves his knight backwards to try to hop in or something. But now we take. I didn't. I just kind of took, but I feel like I've already calculated this on previous turns, so it should be fine. Okay, yes. Now if we just take with the bishop, we hit the knight, and he can't take here, and then we just go back. Yeah, he moves his knight forward, but we just go back, and if he hops it in, no one cares. Okay, he doesn't even hop it in. We can actually kick his rook off of this line. It'll go somewhere else. And then we can attack the pawn. And if he goes defensive, then maybe here. I don't think I need to cover these squares just now. Let's say it's his turn, he does go here and I just ignore him. Then he moves back or whatever. And his pawn's always a little loose, so maybe I get my king over to e7. If you take, because if you take it and he takes it, he still has the same pressure. I'm up 2 pawns, so it's, I mean, it's probably not a big deal, but okay, I don't want to run out of time. What was the line I was calculating? Oh yeah. So this or king over. King over, he still goes in here. Now let's go king over. I mean, this was probably a thing, but he goes king off. No buy it. Okay, now I'm gonna go for this thing. Give me a check, I go over. The pawn is protected. He can't infiltrate. He can't go over because his king's in the way. Not sure where his king thinks it's going. I'm gonna attack this guy, maybe this guy. Okay, so now he's going defensive. That's where it's going. So in that case, let me bring my rook back around because I'm up 2 pawns. And I'm not going to have infiltration because if I go to the back rank, it hangs. If I go to the 7th, he's just going to defend the pawn. So he's bringing his king to, I don't know, do stuff. But I'm up 2 pawns on the in an endgame. He trades. What? So I have a pass B pawn, a potential pass B pawn. He breaks here. How do I do this? I think I ignore him and either move my king up or my bishop with threats. Let's move our king up. Okay, he shuts down the structure, but what's he going for? It makes no sense. Let's attack a pawn. I mean, I'm going to let him take this at some point because his pawn doesn't matter to the game. Okay. Is he just going to try to repeat? I mean, his best move is probably to hit the bishop again. Then I'm going to waste 3 seconds of his clock by going, okay, he doesn't do it. He goes here, trying to, I guess, stop what I'm doing. We want to fix his pawns on light squares, maybe so we can take them with our bishop. And then we want to create a pass pawn. Okay, so he goes here. Let's get our bishop somewhere else. Okay, now he's just moving his knight around. He wants to defend his pawns. Let's move our king in. We need to break and create a pass pawn. Our bishop's better than his knight. His pawns are on the wrong color because they're fixed on light, and which makes them targets. Okay, he moves his king. A little weird. Let's keep pushing. He takes. Now we have a pass C pawn. and a bishop that's kind of covering things from behind in his camp, which is funny. Okay, he puts his knight here, but this should allow for the breakthrough we want with a cool tactic, bishop e2. Finally giving up the bishop to get our king in. And now it's Zugzwang, he just loses. So now this is completely winning, he might resign, and that's because we waited for our opportunity to do this nice tactic. Bishop check, sacking the bishop. Okay, he's still playing. The only hope would of course be stalemate. As he'll never have time for this. Of course you could just sack it and queen a different pawn, it makes no difference. And when I do that, he might resign. Okay, he doesn't resign, so we'll just checkmate him. There we go, he does resign. Rematch offer? No thanks. No thank you, guy. So let's go through the game, and we have a Philidor. We use this move order, but we end up in the same position that the regular Philidor you see a lot. He goes down the queen trade line, which we love because we always score wins with it. He attacks our knight, but it's not a threat because bishop's better than knight. So we just develop towards the center. He gives us a check. We were forced to either go king c8, which is actually the best move, but I'd go knight bd7 anyway because knight bd7 ends up being slightly better if they don't play perfect, and they never play perfect, so we're just going to throw that move in, develop. He threatens our center, and now king safety and force move. Force move, defending the center. We like our position. Controlling the center and king safety. King safety. Developing a piece, creating threats. White is already much worse. Black already minus 1.4. And you see this move did look weird because I guess he's trying to do this, but we just take the knight and it's minus 2.6, and you're like, what? How? Minus 2.7, just his structure's terrible. Our pieces are good. His pieces end up having nowhere to go. His knight's terrible. His pawn structure has full of holes and weaknesses. So we just develop with threats. Minus 3.3. Yes, we're moving the same piece twice, but it's for free because it keeps coming with threats. We take free stuff. And now here, you could definitely take the pawn. But I took the bishop just for like a practical, you don't have all the time in the world, just make a practical choice. It's still over minus 2.3, so it's fine. And then we just want to develop. You could put a rook here. You could even potentially throw your pawns up the board, but I feel like activating your rooks is the best move. So move your rook or develop it this way. He gave us this hook, our bishop's touching it, so you just use the hook. Minus 2.4. He takes, which doesn't make sense because it's good for us, developing our stuff. We just double, get our last piece in the game, add pressure. Then we defend this pawn to give him absolutely no counterplay. We're going to take the pawn next, which is what happens. We retreat. And you kind of can do anything you want here. You have lots of options, but we just move our king over. You don't have to do this. You could definitely make different decisions, but I think it's fine. It's still minus 4, so whatever. We get the bishop out because this rook can't stay on this line, which means it can't pressure the pawn. And then that means your rook and king don't even have to guard it at all. So we throw it in, try to make our bishop useful to some extent. This is a forced move that helps us solidify. And now we just try to activate our rook because this isn't going to work because he'll just defend the pawn. So we try to go through the d file, which is what we do. And he takes, which is crazy because I think, oh yeah, we're up 2 pawns here, so it's minus 3.5. And I mean, there's nothing really else to go over. Basically, you activate your bishop, you get your king as far up as you can on the dark squares. You can give him this f6 pawn at some point, because once his knight's here, like, okay, it took a doubled pawn, but your pawns are still not going to pass 2 versus 2, so that's why it's minus 3.5. He tries to break it down, but it doesn't actually do anything. We just attack his stuff, and we just zigzag back and forth. They give a mistake. How could a minus 3? It's still minus 3. I mean, what do you want me to? What do you want from me? What do you want from me, engine? Mistake. Minus 4 to minus 3. Completely winning. Completely winning. Fixing targets. He can't stop you from creating a passed pawn. How could it be a mistake? Anyway, hopefully this reinforces further the Philidor queen trade line, how it's good for black, how to play it, what traits you don't mind seeing, how we're almost always at least -1 by like move 6 or 7. Put it in your repertoire, give it a try. Start with slow games, and then submit them to me in my Discord. Good luck in your chess, and goodbye.